Tonight, it's the great man, Jamie the Jdog Wallace. We're here for the Round 9 review for a massive week of AFL football. Big fella, what a cracking round of footy. So much to talk about. So many results that I reckon have shaped the season. And I'm telling you now, Jdog, you laughed at me last week, but the final 8 is locked in.
Done already.
Done. It is done. It took 10 rounds because we count the first one being a round, but it is locked in. No change. No one jumping in. It's done.
Bring up the ladder.
I will bring up the ladder, but
bring up the ladder or bring up the result.
I will bring up the ladder. I will bring up the results. Lots to get through tonight. It is going to be an absolute belter of an episode. We're going into debate mode, Jamie and I, on a topic that I'm very passionate about. I know he is as well, which I'll let you know in just a moment. But let's have a look at this ladder after round 9. Brisbane Lions, did they get, what's the old cliche? They stole victory from the jaws of defeat. They stole a draw from the bits of defeat after they pretty much capitulated against North. North should have won that. But they're 2 points clear on the top of the ladder with Collingwood, 28 points, the same as Hawthorn. One of those two teams I did not pick to make the 8. Collingwood. Gold Coast, my boys. Love them. 24 points, same as the Adelaide Crows. We'll talk about them in a moment. Western Bulldogs on 20. Geelong on 20. GWS on 20. Essendon on 20, but a massive amount of percentage out. You got Carlton on 16. The Wankers with Anchors, Fremantle on 16 with St Kilda, Port Adelaide on 16 as well too. The Shitney Swans, Mel Can't Kick, Richmond, Notamalaban, and all the way down the bottom of the barrel is West Coast Eagles, 0 wins after 9 rounds of football. Thoughts, feelings, over to you, great man.
I've just got to say that was a cracking round of football after the shit round of football in round 8.
Yep. It was a great weekend of football, and for multiple different reasons. I'm going to get the games up from last weekend right now. Fremantle defeated by Collingwood. We sort of knew that was going to happen.
Did we?
Well, I think I picked Fremantle, but just Collingwood, they're doing everything right now to frustrate the living Jesus out of me because I think that they are absolutely going to fall in a hole in the back end of the season when it gets a little bit colder and the bodies get a little bit tougher, but they just keep doing what they're doing, and they rested 4 players and they still beat Fremantle. But does that loss say more about how good Collingwood are going or just how bad Fremantle are?
I think it probably talks to how good Collingwood are going.
Yep.
Like, you have 4 big cogs out. They can still get a win on the road. We talk about Collingwood and not travelling. I think their next 14 games, 10 or 11 at home or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
Or in Melbourne. Go WA, knock over Freo. Easy.
They're just unbelievable. Like, they're a unit. Like, every club is jealous of them. Every supporter group is jealous of them. We hate it when they yell out Collingwood at the end of a game, but we are bloody jealous because they can do that week in, week out. They've got buy-in. They've bought in. They got on Bitcoin early, and they are reaping the rewards right now. St Kilda beaten by Carlton. St Kilda, the ultimate tease. They go and do what they did the week before against Freo, and you're thinking, here we go, they're a chance, and then Carlton serve that up. Once again, who's that say? It wasn't a great game, but Carlton just doing what Carlton do. And Harry Mackay is really showing, having a few weeks off due to personal issues has made him a better contributor to that team. He is, they say Curnow and Cripps. I would say Harry Mackay is almost their most important cog. And Jack Silvani going down back has been a masterstroke for that team.
When Harry can kick, but I want a commissioned opener into the type of football boots that St Kilda were wearing and who advised them on the length of their stops.
Jdog.
They just kept falling over in critical moments.
Well, here's the issue, and this has been brought up a couple of times already, where they think that the grass is cut not long enough. It's cut too short, and so there's nothing for the boots to grip into, and you can't wear screw-ins. You have to wear molds now. You're not allowed to even wear a hybrid boot anymore. So you can't get long stop boots like we used to have, old school, and that's why they're slipping over. There's no grip. There's no give in the ground, and that happens. It's no good.
I'm not the only one who noticed this, surely, on Friday night. Like, it just seemed like the pockets, the wing, no matter where St Kilda were, if the ball was critically won, they fell. Carlton stayed up and got away.
Yep, exactly right. So it's absolutely fascinating how clubs can do that, but they just keep on keeping on there at the MCG. Melbourne defeated by Hawthorn. Look, from a Melbourne perspective, they do my head in. Jamie, what's one thing? We've been going for 8 years now. I think we're in around 9th almost. What is the one thing I always say about kicking? Bad kicking is...
I don't know, Peps.
Bad kicking is bad.
Kicking is
bad.
Melbourne's DNA.
Fuck. Bad football. And once again, you flog. They've come out and just screwed the pooch. 7-14. They were in this game up to their eyeballs, and the good old fourth quarter fade out, which they're being outscored by something like 30 goals in the last quarter. That's how bad they are. And they just completely screwed the pooch once again. But Hawthorn, Jack Gunston, he'll play to his 86 and he'll still be kicking bags. He's a freak. He is a freak. Can you believe he went to Brisbane for a year? What was he thinking? Going there for a year.
Cash.
Cash. Came back for the victories. Hey, Essendon, are they the informed team? There's always an informed team around about this time of the year, and you'd have to say it is pretty much Essendon. Great win over Sydney. They were, 34, 35 up, or might have been 41 at one stage, and they almost completely fudged it. But good on them. They got across the line, and there's a lot of believers right now about the Essendons, and do you think that they can continually work and continually... Can they make finals, Jdog? Do you reckon? Are you a believer?
I'm not a believer because Sydney aren't much chop, and they did almost blow a 37-point lead. No, I'm not a believer.
Nah, but they've got issues, haven't they? Coxie's having dramas. Big dramas over there.
What's not when working? You have Goldie absolutely mopping up Grundy in the ruck, like, how old's Goldie now? 107?
36 he is. 36.
No, he's not.
He's 36.
He's not.
He's 36.
He's not. Is he?
Yeah, he's 36. How old do you think he was?
I was thinking like 38, 39. I feel like he's literally been playing since I was a teenager.
Yeah, 36 he is. 36.
No.
Just once again, does that just show how good he is, or is that how bad Grundy's been going? But they're no good at the moment, Sydney. They were in a grand final last year, Jdog. Like, that's how far they have fallen.
I haven't checked the Sydney list for a little bit. They're almost back to full strength now, aren't they?
Who's that?
They've got all the midfielders back. Sydney.
No, they're still missing Goulden, Mills, but they wouldn't be too far off the full kit and caboodle. I just think they're just no good. They're just no good. And good to see Zach Reid getting a bit of continuity in his football as well too. He's just, you know what, that guy could be anything, but he just needs to get just a bit more, just don't be the tampon, in for one, out for four. We don't need that, mate. We need you in there for a long time. Sorry for anyone listening, but that's the way he is. He's just unfortunate. He just needs to get a bit of luck. But yeah, listen, they're going all right at the moment. They're out by a percentage. Out by a couple of games, I will say. They've just got to hit some good wins. Have they played Melbourne already? Yep. Oh well, then there goes that opportunity. But yeah, they'll be able to go all right. Gold Coast, my boys, they're back. Jamie beat a massive contender. We're talking about the Western Bulldogs. Great game, this one. Really good finish to this game as well too. What more could you say? Gold Coast shows them. You play them up there in Darwin, they're going to be hard to beat. You're going to have a good game against Hawthorn this week. And the Doggies, they'll sit back and go, you know what, we lost. Lot to take out of it. I wouldn't be too phased. These two teams will be playing finals in the back end of this year, so I'm pretty excited by that. Tell me about the showdown, my friend. This is yours. Port Adelaide lost by 5 points. Talk about it, big boy.
Look, great game. If you're a neutral, I mean, showdowns, this is the rivalry. I know you've got your Anzac Day, those sorts of things. But
I was about to ask that one. And I want this one for the listeners. I want this one for the viewers. I want it for everybody. What is the game out of these two that you really look forward to? Which is the ultimate game? Is it the Anzac Day showdown, Essendon Collingwood, or is it the showdown? Like, if you could only watch one of those two games for the entire year, which one would it be? I agree with you. I would take a showdown over Anzac Day any day of the week.
Yeah, look, this was a showdown classic. It'll go down with the likes of the Angus Monfries bounce, that kind of thing. There was a goal, less than a goal in it with a minute to go. No doubt that Adelaide were probably the better side for the night. They were way more efficient. The likes of Phil for Tex and the other one that I always forget,
Fogarty,
that trio just works well with that little pest, Rankin, just doing Rankin things. Look, it's a typical Port Adelaide loss. 20 plus in inside 50s. I think it was 20 plus on disposals. So probably Peps, I think Port and Melbourne run very similar to this. We'll win possession, same as you.
Yep.
You'll win your forward 50 entries.
Yep.
But you'll just lose the game because the scoring efficiency is dog shit.
Yep. It is. It's pretty average. And the thing is that, you know, Melbourne have been one of the highest inside 50 teams for the last 5 or so years, and they just can't hit a target going inside 50. They do it for some weeks, can't do it for others. You look at Port Adelaide and you think they've got Georgiades down there, they've got Willie Rioli down there, Horn Francis can work through. You've got, I would have said Rosie previously, but Butters can work his way through. Like, there's so many options that you've got down there. And how can you not score? And then you have a team such as on the weekend who went into scoring of almost 50%. So 50 or 60% for their inside 50s. Some teams just are able to get it in and score virtually every single time. And there's teams that just get it in there and they can't do anything with it. I don't know. I don't know if it's system. I don't know if it's... I think it's just a whole culmination of things. And you're right. I think Melbourne and your mob are pretty much in the same boat. They just don't know how to convert. And
Are we the Titanic and the Britannia?
No, we're more of the...
Are we sister ships?
No. We're sister
ships. Coaches going down.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're the Titanic. Oh, but you're already being decommissioned. All right, we haven't hit our iceberg yet. We got.
What was the Olympic? Was the Olympic as the Titanic? What were the sister ships?
It's the Royal.
I've got that wrong.
Hugenflasen. Doesn't matter. Richmond versus West Coast. What a cracking! Like, seriously, if you didn't watch the end of this game, it was immense. But there's something I'm going to bring up later on as part of our debate, and it links into this game, because there was a couple of things that happened right at the death knell that one thing shouldn't have happened and one thing should have happened, and they both didn't, and that's what cost them the win. But Richmond, they've got 3 wins. They're on the same amount of wins as Sydney and Melbourne at the moment. You know, for a team that we thought that wouldn't, I wouldn't say they wouldn't have won a game all year, but they've excelled so far this year, and they've got a great young crop. And I really feel sorry for West Coast because they had a good hard crack all day. It would have been a great game to go to. Very much like Drive to Survive. Not up at the front. We're not up at the front, mate. We're in the middle. We're just fighting between each other. Like, that's a race within itself too. Geelong GWS. Another cracking game. Like, I was trying to have Mother's Day roast with my beautiful wife and my mother-in-law and the kids, and I must admit, I was loving the company, but I also had on the chair next to me, which they did not see, was the game in the last 5 minutes, and it was absolutely amazing. Yeah, I just loved every moment of it, especially for this. Bags, bags, bags. We love it when they kick 'em. Bags, bags, bags. It's got to be 6 or more. It's got to be 6 or more. Big Jesse Hogan kicks 7. 7 down there at GWS. I love it. I love him. Why did Melbourne ever get rid of him?
Peps, can I just remind you,
Yes.
this bloke is going at 4 goals average this season.
He's a freak, isn't he?
He is on the precipice of getting bags every week.
I say gamble responsibly, but I did sneak a sneaky $4 on Hogan to win the Coleman into Levi Ashcroft for the Rising Star, into Lockie Neal for the Brownlow, at 400s.
400s.
Yep. So it'll be a $1,660-something win if it comes in. I got that after he kicked his first bag a couple of weeks ago. But that was a great game, a great finish as well too. Sean Manor had a couple of opportunities to win it, couldn't get it across the line. Cracking game. And then you got the North Melbourne-Brisbane draw. Like, seriously, who would have thought North Melbourne-Brisbane would have been... Have a look at those 3 games. Those 3 games were decided by the space of 6 points. 3 games, 6 points.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was an incredible round.
We could even make it 11 points if you go to your game as well, too. It was a beautiful... Like, from the start of the weekend, it was pretty average. As the games went on, it was amazing. And, yeah, North should have won that, but just a little bit of inexperience up in the forward line, and they would have had that. But, yeah, Brisbane... Too bad whoever they're playing this week, because it is going to be an absolute nightmare for whoever they are taking on. My great man. Rightio. We always do this. We're talking about the Rising Star. How good was this bloke on the weekend? Nate Caddy. Essendon supporters, they're walking. His chest is pumping out, but I tell you what, the Essendon supporters will be pumping their chests even more. This guy is an absolute beast. 16 disposals, 7 marks, 3 goals. His work rate around the ground is probably what impressed me as well. He is a both-way runner. He is going to be vital. You got him and Kako coming in at the same time. Perfect combination. And really part of what is leading Essendon's I wouldn't say semi-revival, but they're finally getting a few things clicking. And it's, for the Essendon supporters, it's really nice to see. So he's got an amazing future in front of him. And if you've seen a number of the photos of the young Nate Caddy, he's got a lot of big things in front of him as well.
What do you mean?
I just check Google, everybody. Rightio. Now, Jdog, I wanted to talk about something. I think I saw the worst ever decision in an AFL game on the weekend. Not too sure if you've heard, but a certain Cozzy Pickett got tripped in the goal square. Did you see the footage of it?
There's 2 they've missed in that passage. Yes.
So it wasn't just I don't know how they thought he fell over, where there was someone hiding in the grassy knoll that took his ankle out. But and I've still got to find out whether he's been fined for tripping. But he's taken his leg out. And then the ball's rolled through the points, and Mr. Sicily's just thrown himself the ball, run around the points, and gone out, which you can't do. So I can't keep up, mate. But there was another shocker on the in the St Kilda game. I don't know if you saw it, where he was I can't remember the player's name, coming out of the back line, and he's tried to tap it to himself, in a contest, tried to tap it to himself, roll well on the boundary. It's rolled out. Eddie's gone, deliberate. They've got no feel for the game. Umpires. How can you have 4 of them and it's made it worse? It's putrid. It is. I know we don't like bagging them. We don't want to bag them out, but there's decisions that are getting made that you sit back and just go, how in the hell? How in the hell? I've got no idea. Absolutely no idea.
Well, I think it was one of the radio stations at the time said that they can review it and can tell a fingertip on a ball 40 metres out from the goal, and yet no 4 field umpires could see that trip in that goal square.
And I reckon what's even funnier is Gerard Whateley's commentating the game. And he's basically pulled the microphone down after he's rolled it out and gone, sack 'em all! And the box has just gone completely berserk. It is a great piece of vision. But yeah, I just don't understand how you can get these things wrong so often. It just boggles the mind. Absolutely boggles the mind.
It's the theatre of it.
It is the theatre.
Theatre of it.
I did go to the theatre on Saturday night. I went and saw Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice, the musical, and it was a belter. So if you can get a chance to go and see it, beautiful.
What, where were you? What theatre?
The Regent Theatre in Collins Street.
Lovely.
Very, very
Lovely
nice.
theatre.
Very, very nice. Very, very. Eddie Perfect plays Beetlejuice. Love it. Hey, Bo Hawkins, Essendon are one loss away from cliff diving without a parachute. Interesting. And Rocco Tomasi, otherwise known as the great Tommy Roca, he is saying Flag Suns. Interesting. It could be Flag Suns. You just never know. Rightio, Jdog. I want to have a chat to you about this. One thing that I've been noticing is I've been having some conversations. You know, when you go to the local footy and you have a bit of a chat and you have maybe a Canadian club or a couple of Great Northerns, you just lube up the confidence a little bit. And I was having a discussion with a gentleman at the footy by the name of Paul, top bloke. And we were talking about the state of the game, and not the state of the game from the AFL perspective, but just the quality of games. And we were having a conversation that, I said, I just think the players these days are not as skilled as 20, 30 years ago. But I know that you are a bit of you look at it from a different lens and think, well, I think that they're more skilled than that particular time. So I wanted to sit here and give us the opportunity to debate why I think the old school footballer is so much better to watch and so much better skilled than the players of today.
Okay.
So how we're going to do this is I'm going to start it off and I'll give you a number of reasons what I think. And then I'd love to hear it from you. And then once again on the chat and also the Facebook feeds, etc. I'd love to hear your opinions on this as well too. And the YouTube feed. Like, subscribe, ring the bell because it's lace out. That's how you want your footy. Look, I watch football these days, mate, and I get absolutely bewildered at the fact of the number of players that can't kick both feet, can't handball both hands, can't handball and hit a target 5 meters away, can't run and bounce, missing goals from 25, 30 meters straight in front because they're doing around the corner kicks or they're trying to do a check side. The players that can't mark in the hands, I think a lot of people are trying to go to the chest. The high-flying mark is no longer there. Even just one-on-one play, there is a skill in being able to outwork your opponent in a one-on-one contest. We just don't see it anymore. And I think, the NBA in the US, a lot of people have said people aren't watching it because of the style of the game is pretty much Mickey Mouse across the board. And these days, I'm looking at the AFL and I think clubs would rather have, if you've said it for many, many years, athletes rather than footballers. I will take a Jason Ackermanis from 50 metres out on his right foot and then on the other side of the ground, 50 metres on his left foot. A Brad Johnson, a Rowan Smith, a Gary Ablett Sr. who was elite on both sides of the body. Cameron Bruce, I could roll through them. So many. Where's the big high-flying marks these days? Where's the full forwards that are kicking, they're not kicking bags, but they're kicking regular goals over points? I'm really frustrated at the fact now that they're saying football's never been better and the skills have never been better. Well, I can tell you now, they're doing this in perfect conditions where players, 25, 30 years ago, when sort of modern football started to really open itself up, we're doing it on bogs, we're doing it outside with usually 1 to 2 balls in a game and being able to dominate both sides of the body. Some players you couldn't tell what side they kicked on. That is how awesome they were. And if I put a team of those players up against the players of today, they would absolutely wipe the floor with them. Okay. Over to you.
I hear what you're saying, Peps, but I would argue the other way. I think today's AFL players have to have a high level of skill across the board due to a couple of things. I'll talk about these, but we know now that they're all full-time professionals getting paid very well. I think I heard today the stats, an average wage of 475,000 or something. The demands of the game are faster, and it's a far more technical game. So, one, kicking precision has improved. If you look at the time when you're talking about, if you watch one of those games, they're long, contested kicks were standard, and there was less emphasis on hitting those tight targets. Look at the players like Nick Dacos, Caleb Daniel, who are always hitting your 20 to 30 meter kicks in congestion, very laser-like passing. So that modern game does require far more execution under pressure. Two, handballing is way more creative and strategic. Now, I know I'm going to use Oliver here as an example, but Clayton Oliver in his peak would find creative ways to get space with his handballs. He'd draw defenders, he would break lines. Another example of that now is someone like Zach Butters. The amount of skill that Zach Butters possesses to find a player running over the back or a tap or a quick handball out, it's often way more strategic. Back then, handballs were way more reactive and they were more used to escape trouble rather than to actually create the game, the flow moving forward. And these days, players are way more ambidextrous. They have to handball left and right. Kicking, I'll grant you that. Probably back in the old day, they might be better left and right. But handballs, they have to be left and right. Number three, tackling and pressure have advanced. Back then, it was one-on-one tackling and there was less team structure. Now, there's team pressure, tackling efficiency. There is a really tight, legal, technical element to tackling now. Peps, I know this will almost start to trigger you, almost like Robocop, when I talk about legal tackles. And we don't have to talk about examples such as in the last 3 years, Matty Rouse, Steel Side Bottom, and Rory Atkins there, who have been done for illegal tackles. Now, you have to pressure, you have to tackle as a team. Number four, the biggest one of all, Peps, the thing that makes you angry, the athletes versus players. There's way more running and way more emphasis on spatial awareness. Back then, less running, more one-on-one matchups. Now, players are running 15K a game. They're zone adjusting. They're doing smarter runs. So if you look at like your Errol Gouldens or your Ed Langdons, way more thinking about where their running patterns and leading patterns are. And if I just give you a couple of players there, Peps, just to sort of hammer this point home with you. Tony Lockett, the forward, the amazing forward. I'd say a modern comparison to Tony Lockett would be your Tom Hawkins and Charlie Curnow. Now, Lockett, beast in the square. But today's key forwards, they have to run up and down the ground, and they must be exceptional field kickers. Wayne Carey, another example. You'd probably say Jeremy Cameron is somewhere in that same ilk. Now, Carey was dominant and skilled, but Cameron covers more ground, better agility, and delivers inside the 50 more often. Nathan Buckley, I mean, he's pretty phenomenal. But let's look at, I don't know, Nick Dacos, same jumper. Buckley, elite, we love that. But Dacos combines that. He's got speed, precision, agility, and he can play in those multi-roles, things that Buckley didn't have to do. So I just think overall, the modern players' demands on the modern game requires them to be more skilled than what we're talking about in the 90s.
Yeah, he makes some very, very good points there, Jdog. But let's be honest. When I go to watch the football, if I want to watch running, I'll go down to the local athletics carnival or maybe Little Athletics to watch that because that's all it is these days. It is run, run, run. Yep. Forwards should not be backmen. They should be in the goal square kicking goals. That's what they're getting paid for. Team defense is the biggest farce, I reckon, in the entire league. The issue is clubs these days, coaches these days, do not want to coach for the victory. They want to coach to stop the other team winning. They don't kick goals. I want to go and see goals. I want to go and see bags. Disposals. You spoke about disposals, etc. Jdog, in the year 2000, Nathan Buckley averaged 29 possessions a game. 29 possessions. All right? These days, players are averaging 34 possessions a game as of now. So it's so many cheap kicks. A 30 possession game was like super elite. Now these guys are racking them up. Cheap kicks, cheap stats. You can get them before half time these days. 3/4 time. They're absolutely pathetic. Absolutely pathetic, Jdog. It's a farce. People are sitting there watching their super coaches going, I hope he gets 26. I hope he gets 27. Like, if you had a 30 possession game, you would have got 3 Brownlow votes. Tell me, who's the modern day Cooter? Who's the modern day player that when he runs into 50 and he's about to slot it on either side of the body, you sit back and go, oh, how good is this bloke? Who can do this? Who's the Acker of 2025, Jdog? Okay? Who's the big power forward that is going to dominate forward lines like Plugger did, like Carey did, like Matthew Lloyd did, like Neitz did? There's no one. They're a dime a dozen these days. Players these days are a dime a dozen. You take one out, you put one in. Stephen Milne, what an absolute superstar. That was a small forward who had skill. Who's now the small forward that you go, oh, geez, he's on? I know the game has changed a lot, but it hasn't changed for the better. And the players these days, like I said, they're just so... Can I give you one word and tell me who's the modern day equivalent? Diesel. Who's the modern day? Who is the modern day Greg Williams? Diesel. Kids in football fields were grabbing the ball. Diesel. Both hands. Elite.
Could you say
who's the Diesel?
Could you say one of your favourite players at the moment would be Zach Merritt? Would be a somewhat equivalent?
Not even close. Not even close. There is no Diesel. There is absolutely no Diesel at the moment. There's no Cooter. There is no forward that you're really scared of like they had over the years as well too. Players winning games off their own boot. They don't do that now. I miss those days. And I just think they are so much more better skilled 20, 25 years ago. The conditions
so I can give you
were
a Cooter equivalent.
Who?
Bontempelli.
Ooh.
He would walk Cooter. And Peps, let me tell you why a 2020s team would beat a 2000s team.
I want to hear it.
Better ball movement. We know it. It's quick. It's precise. It's lightning handball change. If you watch a game from the 20s, the 2000s to the 2020s, it is like you are watching reserves Z-grade football versus what it is now.
Ooh.
We know that there is a far more zonal defense mastery. We know, and we talk about this every week, if you lose one key person from your defense zone, it can wreck you. All I'm saying is...
So what does that say? Players are not good individually these days. They have to be part of a network, a team. You've made very, very good points, Jdog. But once again, name a player people walk through the door to go and see these days. Who's a forward they go to see? Who's the modern day Richo? You can't even have a personality these days. You get fined for it. Iconic Richo, bottom of the pack. Bailey Smith.
At half time, these 2000s players that you're talking about would be ice bar, probably on the IVs because that was a thing back then with Brisbane Lions. But those athletes then couldn't cover the 14 to 18 kilometres of a game that it requires now at a high intensity.
But why does the game need to be like that? Do you think the game is better to watch?
Evolved.
But it's turned into a running game, not a skills game.
But is that the fault of what?
That's
the game of evolving. That's great.
But is it evolving
We
in
want
the right
speed.
way? Do you?
Absolutely.
Do you want speed or a hard, brutal, high-scoring contest, or would you rather have a 50 to 55 grueling, high-speed game where no one's scoring?
I want. Well, I like both because I get what you're saying and I understand the love for that era of football. But Peps, I now find it a real hard watch to watch those games versus now when I can flick on the TV and KO and watch whenever.
Yeah.
I find it really hard.
Yeah, I reckon. I think the issue that we've got these days is there's too many, and I think the product has been diluted. You know, I'll have 50% of the people who watch this video will say, no, play was better then. And 50% say, no, Jamie's right. Footy's the best sport in the world. But I think the product, in terms of the number of players that are playing these days, the product has got diluted.
How good is it though?
Yeah.
Like, I get what you're saying, like with your Cooter and your Careys and all that sort of era, right? They played half forward or they played the midfield. But how good is it seeing someone like on the weekend, Josh Dacos has been playing on the wing, goes into the midfield, complete new role, really opened up the player. For Port Adelaide, we had Miles Bergman go into the middle of the ground, and you're like, this guy can play both positions equally well. We've gone Connor Rosie, go back to the halfback line. I know he's played halfback in the reserves world, but players now are way more flexible.
Yeah. They're almost become a jack of all trades and a master of none, where the old school...
No, that's not the full saying.
I agree.
No,
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that the players, if you had a genuine Matthew Lloyd full forward against a Jesse Hogan per se, I think Lloyd would do better. I think Lloyd is more athletic and he's a better kick. But when it came to the running capacity, I reckon Hogan would have him big time. But then on the flip side is that Matthew Richardson played a year on the wing and almost won a Brownlow.
Yep.
So I do see that. But it's just fascinating when you get the old school versus the new school, what they like. And it's going to be even more interesting when in a couple of years, we've got Tasmania coming in, diluting the pool even further.
Did you see the Tassie predicted picks for 2027?
Yeah. Have you got the list there?
I bring it up unless you've got it there, but I can bring it up.
Yeah, no, I think it's 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 13, 15, 17. But they have to trade out 5, 7, 9, 5, 7, 11, and 13, I think it is.
Correct.
I don't have an issue with that. I don't have an issue with that. Because they need these players. They need to get the players in. I'll be fascinated to see who goes, who's the first one, who's going to be the Phil Davis, who's going to be the one that goes, I'll have a crack here and go to a new team.
Yep. They're also talking about academies for Tassie, which is good as well. I think it's needed.
Yep.
But Peps, is it time we start talking about academies for all interstate teams?
No. So,
well, we know that Freo and West Coast, we're talking about some serious players coming from there, going back to Victoria. Port Adelaide is in the gist of it as well, with a couple of their key young players looking at going back to Victoria.
Yep.
We know the names.
Okay.
Is it becoming the point that unless you are trading local, the pull to home, the Victorian focus
it's a good point,
is taking that talent out of these teams who are wasting high picks, getting a few years out of them, and then moving on to Victorian teams?
Okay, so I hear what you say. It's a real tough one for me because the draft used to be the equalizer for everybody. That's gone. And I think the leeway has gone too far in relation to the academies, Father-sons are a bit different, but I still think they don't give up enough for that father-son pick. I know there's the whole romance in it and so forth, but I think they have to give up a lot more than what they are giving in terms of the fact that just because the dad played 100 games, you can get him at a discount. Well, if you're the Ashcroft twins or the Ashcroft boys who are virtually pick ones in both their drafts, if they went to the draft, that they gave up, $5 in a sun hat. I know they gave up, quite a fair amount of points.
But back-end picks.
But back-end stuff. I think there needs to be some rules and regulations around that. The Perth clubs, I know West Coast and Fremantle, if you have a look at their last couple of draft years, they've tried to bring in blokes from Perth, and they're willing to not take maybe the best person from the Eastern Seaboard. They might take someone who's a bit fitty and push him towards coming to our club because they know that they're less of a flight risk. But also, it comes down to the person themselves. Like Harley Reid, he'll be back.
Absolutely, 100%.
My mate's son is Cooper Duff-Titler, who potentially could be the number one pick this year. He doesn't care where he goes. He'll go to Perth. So be it. But I think that it's getting to a point now. Adelaide, that's a footballing factory out of Adelaide. I think the under-18 comp that used to be, the piece de la resistance in Victoria has now been taken over by the private school football game, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So I think there's a lot of things that need to be fixed and tweaked before we go down that route. But you know what? I don't think every club needs academies. I think that it's just been muddied too far, that they almost need to strip it back and make the rules a lot more simpler than they need to be. I've always been an advocate of, and I've said this for many, many weeks, and I'll say it again, if you haven't listened to Lace Out before, if you know that Levi Ashcroft is going to go, you're going to take him with your first pick, right? You know that he's going to get bidded on in the first round. If he does get bidded on in the first round, so you have to have a pick in the first round to use. Because then you're giving up something of an equivalent, not backup points that, you get all your cards and you put them all together and you build something. Hey, there you go. No, you need to have something of a high equivalent. So if you know he's going to go in the first round, great. If he doesn't get bid on, then you use your first pick on him. I think it's... Yeah.
Can I have a counterpoint to that?
Yep.
The AFL has really quite tight bidding rules on players like that. So they will say they're a higher point value. You need to give up more to make those points. But what I hear what you're saying is essentially like clubs like, was it Sydney 3 or 4 years ago, put together like picks 76, 71, 40 something and da-da-da.
Oh,
because
it was
totally
those
Tats
Lotto numbers, mate.
Equaled Goulden.
Yeah. No. Melbourne started that many years ago, and then they tightened it all in.
Yeah.
It's just not... it's just I don't like, Tommy Roker's telling us that they're going to have... Suns are going to have another 6 to 8 academy prospects this year. So, like... They're just going to keep stocking up. And I know when they're crap, no one says anything, but it also gets to the point where, well, how can we go after a Jed Walter when Gold Coast go bang? How can we go after a Brody Hewland? Gold Coast can go bang. I know they have the points for it, and I know they have to invest, but they've got the first access to so much. They've basically got a state to choose from. They're almost like the West Coast Eagles back in the 80s, where their team was almost a state team. They've got the pick of the whole state. And yeah, it's a challenge. And the same with the Sydney teams as well too. Not as much, but they've played football up in Queensland for a long, long time. It's not as foreign as it would be in Sydney.
I hear that. But when you think about the Victorian clubs, they have access to a much larger talent pool just due to the density of the junior football programs. You've got TAC Cup, you've got the Coates Talent League, where like New South Wales, Queensland, South Australia, Western Australia, there's much smaller AFL pathways. And so you have fewer local players choosing footy over other sports like rugby or soccer or whatever you want to do. So I think academies are good because it does help those interstate clubs retain and then nurture some of that local talent. And I guess that's the piece there. And I guess the Gold Coast Academy has had an amazing run for the last few months, but they would never have got that position if they just relied on the traditional recruiting through the draft, because all these kids would have gone home.
Yeah, but they're still going to go home. But even with that,
But these ones won't, because they're going to stay in the state because they were born, raised, parents live in the state, friends support networks are all in that state.
Players are always. If you get for every Harley Reid that wants to go home, you get a Matthew Pravlich who doesn't go anywhere.
And that's it.
Patrick Cripps has not gone anywhere. He's from Perth. People go both ways. Yeah, it's just fascinating when you put into it, and you have a look at their national draft. Like last year, Leo Lombard Academy, Cooper Bell Academy, Lucky Goulburn Academy. Oh, that was Gold Coast.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. They just. If I went back a year and went through their Gold Coast, so I think, look, there's no two ways about it. The draft is really compromised this year, and that's why, I can look at every team, and every team will say, "Yay, great, etc." Melbourne gave up their first pick this year's draft for last year because they knew how diluted, like the first round due to academy bidding, etc. is not going to be 18 picks, Jamie. It'll be in the 30s.
And I think that's the general consensus of what most clubs are thinking this year.
It shouldn't be. It should be, the first round should be 18 picks. Full stop.
Yep.
That's it. But no. The best club is not getting the best kid. Which is the way it should
be. And then does that kid want to stay there beyond 6-7 years, or does the lure of playing in front of 50,000-60,000, which the Collingwoods, the Essendons, the Hawthorns, the Geelongs, just drag each week?
Yeah, that's a different story for another day. If you've got a block of land in Geelong, Harley Reid's can't be staying at your place. Unbelievable. Looking at the rounds coming up this week, my friend. They're not the games. I've got that wrong. So we'll just go back to ourselves. Some cracking games coming up this week as well. I'm not too sure if you've got the fixture in front of you, but it is going to be even the Thursday night game. Like we've spoken about the Gold Coast versus Hawthorn. Like you got Sunny Ball versus Hawk Ball, which I hate the word Hawk Ball. I reckon it's a crock of shit. But Gold Coast, like they are a massive chance to really lock themselves in. You got Sydney versus Carlton. If Sydney lose to Carlton this week, Sydney's over. And I reckon if Carlton lose to Sydney, Carlton's season is in a lot of trouble. You've got Collingwood versus the Adelaide at the MCG. That is a corker of a game. Port versus Geelong. I reckon you're a chance to take that one out, Jdog. I really do. GWS versus Fremantle. Western Bulldogs versus Essendon. The two Marvel tenants. Essendon will be giving themselves a massive shot. 7:35 p.m. Too bad nobody will be able to watch it if you haven't got Foxtel or KO. Richmond versus North Melbourne. So everybody can watch that, but they can't watch the other one. Can Richmond win their fourth game of the year? Can North Melbourne win their second game of the year? Brisbane Lions versus Melbourne. 3:20 in the afternoon. If Melbourne kick straight, can they come back? That's going to be at the Jabba the Hutt. And then you got West Coast versus St Kilda as well to finish it off, which I would give West Coast a bit of a chance. They are not as bad as people say when they're playing at home.
It's also the next 2 weeks, round 10 and round 11 are Sir Doug Nicholls round as well. So we'll see a bunch of the Indigenous jumpers, which jumpers. I always enjoy seeing.
Yeah, I do. I love the Indigenous jumpers. I love the theme jumpers. I love a an Anzac Day jumper. I think there's just something classy about when the clubs do them. And the Indigenous, I love it when the players or players' families are able to bring their heritage and culture through in the jumper. So yeah, I do agree. I reckon it's awesome. I was going to raise something just from before we wrap up. There was one thing that came up on the game against West Coast when they lost that one.
Ooh,
and I was talking about this. Yeah, I was talking about the skills side of things and how I don't think the skills are that great. In the last 30 seconds or the last minute and a half, I saw two things happen, which if they were done in the old school days, they would have won. The first thing is that do you notice the lack of shepherds these days in football? So players give off the handball and get across to shepherd. Like that was a drill.
Yes.
That was a drill that you used to do at training. The 5-point square,
handball
the 8-point
off,
square, handball
shepherd.
off, skip a hat, get the shepherd in. Now, if you have a look on the weekend, when the handball was given to the guy that kicked, unfortunately got tackled, the handball was given. 3 players actually watched him run off and didn't get across to Shepherd Brown, who was coming through. Now, all the player had to do was dish, Shepherd. And I've seen it so many times now where players want to get the ball themselves. Give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. Like Kieran Perkins and his milk, kick it to me. Rather than letting their teammate run on and you getting the body in and stopping them from getting past. So that was the first thing. The second thing is the young bloke who took the ball, and I don't have his name on the top of my head, so I apologise, listeners, but he took 3 steps and took a bounce, Jamie.
No.
Why in God's name has it become fashionable, Zach Sard-like, I can't remember what his first name is, to take 2 bounces and then take 2 steps and then bounce? If he had just tucked the ball under his arm and bolted and had his 15, he would have been clear and he would have been able to have a shot. But that bounce was enough time for him to pause and slow down for the guy to get tackled at the back.
Do you know why?
Oh, why?
It'd be a motor pattern that he bounces on that step. It'd be something like that. It'd be something you don't even think about. It's so subconscious that if he tucked the arm under and took another 3 or 4 steps, it would throw him out of his bounce rhythm. I can guarantee you.
Dude, I can tell you now,
like
as someone who tore up Overland Reserve for 26 years, left scorch marks on that wing for 10 years after I finished. The grass has just grown back after 13. You tuck the ball under your arm and run and get that distance on the person chasing you. And if you'd done that, there wouldn't have been an issue. But
look at the dangers. Look how Danger does it.
Danger.
6
Gary
steps.
Ablett Jr. in his heyday. Tuck it in, bolt. No one can. Jdog in the Gabba when he kicked 5 in his 3rd game or whatever. He just tucked the ball under his arm, bolted. When he was clear, took the bounce and went. Slotted it, and you just sat back and go, awesome. So just 2 little things that I want to get out of players. I want to see more 1%ers. I want to see more shepherds. And I want to see players tucking the ball under their arm and running. Remember Lewis Jetta? Do you remember that grand final, Cyril versus Lewis Jetta on the boundary when they just...
Has Jetta been cited?
No, no. He's still on the... He's still on milk cartons. Missing person. Late September. It's gone missing many times. Hey, great show. Everybody's been on the chat. Thank you very much. Everybody who's joining us live, thank you very much on the YouTube channel. It's been a great response on the chat. Everybody's been there. Troy Peters, Rocco Tomasi, Bo Hawkins, the usual crew have joined us. It's been awesome. Everybody who's listening to us on a weekly basis, thank you very, very much. I love every single one of you. We'll be back this week, or next Monday. I will have my tips this week. Apologies for last week. Life took over and unfortunately didn't get around to doing it, but I will have my tips for the first week of Jdog Nichols round. But I'm Christopher Pepper. He's the great Jamie the Jdog Wallace. Anything you want to finish up with before we ring the final siren and hit the sheds?
No. Thank you for another show. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for listening. Thank you, and we will see you both next week.
And one last thing, for all the mothers on the weekend, I hope you had a cracking Mother's Day to my amazing wife, mum, and mother-in-law. Mwah! To the wonderful Alira, Jamie's wife. She has to put up with quite a lot, as you can see, like I do. But more importantly...
4 kids.
Four kids. Every day. 4 kids, 3 kids. Exactly right. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Jamie, how do you want your footy, big fella?
Lace out.
Oh, yeah.